And we move on into the finals, myself versus Dion. Um, I'd say the highlight of the tournament, but I mean, I'm in it, so that's probably a bit biased. So I have US midrange Brit Air and Feigned Retreat Jagro versus, again, his US midrange, like his weird semi-budget version of US midrange, and two OTK decks. So on paper, I think I'm like pretty far favored. His Brit deck will be hard to beat, but his baby combo could definitely have issues. Well, maybe not far favored. Far favored's a bit of a stretch, but I do think I'm like slightly favored on deck lists. And I'm also favored on experience. Dion, this is Dion's first cards tournament, at least. Um, so, like, there's possible there's nerves. Just going into it, I think I had the advantage, at least on paper. And game one is Feigned Retreat, Jagro versus his Brit deck. So I brought Jagro first because my idea was Jagro should be able to beat all three of his decks. And if I get a free win with my Jagro deck, I was expecting Jagro to be a free win. I get to see what he brought game one. And he's brought Britain first game one in the other two series, and he brings Britain first here. I also thought that there was a good chance he brings Britain first, in which case I would want to bring Jagro, because Jagro will be my best win rate against the Britain deck. So in my mulligan, I keep the Type 94s because I wanted like a guaranteed way of killing Crusader if he did Crusader Monty. And they're just kind of fine. Like, they're not as good as cavalry regiments in dealing early damage, but I also thought this is perfectly fine. Two Type 94s, it lets me free kill a Crusader, it lets me free kill a Pioneer. I was thinking about Eratos, but I was like, I'm probably not gonna go far enough into this game to Feigned. I'm not gonna go far enough into this game to Enigma. Like, Enigma would be a possibility, but Desperate Measures and Bombing Raid are kind of bad, so I don't actually want my orders in this matchup, or I don't particularly need my orders in this matchup, is a better way of saying it. So I'm confident in my mulligan. If we look over at Dion's mulligan, he has Pioneer Regiment, which he's found the one. Again, his deck has 4 units, one of which is the Pioneer Company Elite, and he's found it on turn 1 in all 3 games he played with this deck. He has the Monty, which is nutty against Jagro. He has the Scorched Oath, which is nutty against Jagro. You could honestly just full keep this hand. You could send back Spyring, you could send back Convoy, you could full keep this hand. I don't have enough experience on the deck to say exactly what he should do with Convoy Spyring, but you definitely want to keep Scorched Earth, you definitely want to keep Monty, you definitely want to keep Pioneers. Excuse me. Do you feel worse losing to an OTK deck rather than something like Controller Aggro? In general, yes. I don't think that's like a hard and fast rule. If it's like a control versus OTK and it's like a very back and forth with playing around things, but it does not feel great when you're just like, I'm going to attack face every single turn with every single unit, and then my opponent is going to try to see if they can draw their combo by turn 6. That's not fun. That's not interesting for either player. Um, I will say that, yeah, no, it just feels worse losing to OTK. To answer your question, just that's a simple yes. Losing to OTK feels bad. And Dion chooses to full keep the hand. I think that's perfectly reasonable. So I get back Shide and Nikita. Not great, but again, not a completely terrible. Cavalry is really good here. I can hit him in the face for 1, and then play down 3 1-drops. So, of course, the worry is Scorched Earth, but I don't have a particularly good way of playing around Scorched Earth, and my opponent can Spyring, Scorched Earth. Gets Depth Charges, which is probably the best outcome he could have got off that. Here, Akita move up. I can kill his. So there's two lines. There's Akita move up, which lets me hit face for 2 with the Akita next turn, or there is double double surprise attack on the Pioneer. Looking back on it now, maybe I should have double surprise attacked the Pioneer now and played Type 93, and then I'm hitting face for 4 anyways. But I like the Akita move up play better because it let me hit face for 2, then kill um, the unit, and then next turn I would have Akita attack face and uh, cavalry attack phase, and I'm playing around aerial reconnaissance because that gives me 2 turns of not playing units. So actually, no, I do think just Akita move up here is the best play. Um, so here, Dion has a couple different options. I think you just go for the again. I think you just go for the not scorched earth, depth charges. Like, I don't really understand why you don't go for depth. Here it makes slightly more sense because he doesn't have a guaranteed way of getting to his unit, but he has a very high probability of getting to his unit, and he has a good hand, and you just generally want to have more credits, especially when I'm completely locked into attacking only once next turn, and you have Fortification Monty in hand. Like, I think he should have just played depth charges. And here he could play Monty. I don't think he should play Monty. So, surprise attack, kill the Pioneer. And I don't play Type 93 because my opponent passed with 1 credit, so I assumed he had aerial reconnaissance in hand. And if I played a Type 93, it would give me 1 extra damage and discount him up to 6 cards. So, he didn't have it, so in that way, it was... It did not work out, but this is what I meant before about just because something doesn't work out doesn't mean it was wrong. So in this case, it was correct to not play it with the information I had. He did not have aerial reconnaissance, so it would have been better in this game. Like, it would have worked out better if I had played Type 93, but it was still correct to not play it. So here I think Dian should just depth charges again. Same as his game against Vinny, I don't understand why he holds depth charges as long as he does. Like, you have the Monty, you can stop me from attacking you. Most of my units are Scorched Earth. And he just passes on 4. No countermeasures. So I assumed I assumed there was a possibility he was holding up National Fire Service, so I attack with Akita first. It doesn't proc. So now I still think he has aerial reconnaissance from turn, like the previous turn when he passed on 1 credit, and now he's passing on 4 credits. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take the opportunity to hit him in the face for 4. Like, I'm just going to attack him in the face for 4. If he doesn't kill my units, I will eventually just win. And I'm not going to give him the debuff. Here he does draw aerial reconnaissance and then plays depth charges. So here, I just float 6 credits. Because I have the read that he has aerial reconnaissance. He didn't before, but he does now. And I just don't play anything. I don't move up the Type 94 because I wanted my front line to have open slots for units that don't have 4 operation cost. And I figured I was probably not going... Like, slots in the front line is more important for my deck than slots in the support line. So I'd rather a dead unit be in the support line than the front line. So I just float 6 credits. Dion pins. Observer cores the Spitfire. So at this point, Dion needs a finest hour and 9 credits. So Dion's like 1 card and 2 credits away. If I play a unit, he's just 1 card away from lethal. Here, again, just float 7 credits. Like, I know my opponent... The fact that he played Observer Core, I was like 100% certain now that he had Spitfire in hand, because he does not run a lot of Observer Cores, and he does not run a lot of cards in his deck that can be hit by Observer Core. So, I was confident he had Spitfire in hand, and I figured I just don't want to reduce the cost of any units in hand, whether that lets him brings him closer to combo, or whether that like, lets him do a Crusader pop-off turn. Either way, it's just better for me to not reduce the cost. Because if you think about it, I can theoretically hit him for 8 this turn. I can do Panzer 35T, Panzer 35T, Type 93, Type 93, and hit him for 8. He drops down to 5. Problem is, if my opponent's response is I immediately die because I discounted his cards, it doesn't matter that he's on 5 health. If my opponent's response is Crusader Shelled, my opponent's response is Crusader Fortification. If it's Crusader Fortification, Naval Power, Naval Power, Naval Power. Like, there's so many ways that dealing that 8 damage does not matter and is actively bad. Just looking at his hand right now, just going all in probably is the best outcome right now, but I still think it's correct to just pass here. So I rope out, trying to decide what to do. I pass. Dian has an interesting hand now. I think it's probably correct to just do Crusader, Fortification, and then Naval Power something. Heal yourself back to 23, draw 2 cards, you can hold up Aerial Reconnaissance. Like, I can't... You can stop me from being able to kill a Crusader on board, and you can force me into playing a unit to get rid of Crusader. So yeah, actually, that's just by far the best play. You force me into having to play a unit. Like, you force me into triggering your Aerial Reconnaissance. Instead, he plays Scorched Earth on 1 unit, and then plays all his mana, so that I know for a fact he doesn't have Aerial Reconnaissance, which means I'm now open to do whatever I want with my credits. I could do Shiden attack face. The reason I don't do that is it just gets hard punished by Naval Power, and I wanted to get this Whirlwind to the front line, because I'm reaching the point where I could die. If he has Finest Hour, Reduced Spitfire, Final Push, I'm dead. If I don't have Whirlwind to the front line. So I had to get Whirlwind to the front line. This play does just deal more damage. Otherwise. So, yep, this is just the best play. He now does Crusader, Naval Power, Fortification. Gets the National Fire Service. He also has Delay in Tactics if he wants. He does not currently have a way of killing this Crusader. Oh, sorry, he does not currently have a way of killing this Whirlwind. But he can probably retreat it back to hand if he plays Delay in Tactics now. It's not good. He should probably just hold up National Fire Service. His Crusader dies. He still does not have... No, at this point he does have lethal. If the Whirlwind is dead. Is he just setting up... Oh, sorry. Final Push, Majesty's Chosen, or Finest Hour, Final Push, Spitfire is not lethal. He needs either me to have a plane on the board, which is another reason Shiden is bad, or he needs to find a second Final Push or a second Finest Hour, because he only runs 2 Final Push in the deck. So I'm not actually dead here. He can deal 18. So here, hit face with the most valuable unit, and like cheapest unit first, see if he has National Fire Service. He does. Kill the Crusader with the Akita, so that not only is the 4 operation cost unit clear, I also deal 2 damage face. Now there's the possibility I should have played Signal here, which would have dealt 1 extra damage with the Akita, but I kind of wanted to keep my like support line potentially empty for the Shiden. And this play lets me do Panzer 35T, hit him in the face for 4, which I could not have done with Signal, because if I had played Signal first, my support line would be full. And this play actually just does more damage than if I had played Signal first. So the order of things I did was correct. The question is, do I play Signal afterwards or not? If I do play it now, it means if he draws Shelling, it's really good for me. Problem is, if I do play it now and he doesn't play Shelling and instead just, like, you know, does something like Delay in Tactics, or he does something else, I'm going to get a locked support line. And here, he top decks Spy Ring into Flying Bomb, which is literally, I mean, he has delaying tactics, so he can. It's not that this is the only way to like get rid of Warble stopping the OTK, but this is the only way to get rid of Warble stopping the OTK while being able to do this to like stop most of the pressure onto his headquarters. Unfortunately for him, he finds the second delaying tactics as well. So here, just add Flying Bomb to hand pass. I mean, he's done it before. He did it against Artemisia. And I think Artemisia did it against Wild Eyes. So here, most of my 4 op-cost units have been returned to hand. So the question is, how do I deal the most damage face this turn? So if I do Cavalry 35T Whirlwind, that's 7, and then I can throw in an attack there. So I can deal 14 damage with the a Type 93. I can deal 14 damage and get a signal on board. I can deal 11 damage and kill the Crusader. I actually think that's my best play. I think I made a slight mistake this turn. I should have killed Crusader because there was the possibility of Crusader being an out. And what I did here, I sort of ran out of time, and I went for this play, where I drop him to 7 with signal on board, with Shiden in hand, and a support line that can fit a Shiden. What I could have done is I believe I could have brought him to 8 while killing the Crusader if I'd gone for the Whirlwind play, which means he won't be able to draw for lethal. But either way, it does not matter in the end, because he top decks second finest hour, which just gives him lethal. So, in the end, does not matter. He top decks one of the 2 cards in his deck that lets him kill me this turn. Actually, no, I think this play is fine, because he would not have had enough credits to try to draw. I think the only thing he could have done would be naval power to draw once for final push. So I did make a mistake. That's undeniable there. But I don't think there's really a world where that could have been like changed the outcome of the game. So game 2, Jaguar versus US frontline. Here, he should keep a 30-second and send back everything else because his hand's pretty terrible. Here, I should send back the Sendai and keep everything else because my hand's pretty good. And that is exactly how those mulligans go down. So, I get a Cavalry to the front line. He should play 32nd. He plays 32nd. I should go 35T hit face. I'm going through this game pretty quickly because this matchup's not that complicated. And I think we both pretty much know what we're doing here. He should kill the 35T and play a second 32nd. Which is exactly what he does. Here, just bicycle, move up, go face. I float 2 credits, but such is life. Here he can do trade Red Devils hit bicycle, so he can remove my 2 units in line, or in the front line while getting his Red Devils on board. And this puts me in a pretty awkward position with my current hand, because I can either Sendai nothing, because I can't target the Red Devils, so Sendai would just be a 2-3. Or I can errado. Very fortunately for me, I top deck Whirlwind. So, just Whirlwind hit face. Because again, this is very similar to my game against Drogear, where my Japan beat US midrange against Drogear, where I went first and I just went all in face. Like, my opponent had a huge hand, my opponent had a ton of units, and I was like, well, the only way I win is by going face. So that's why I attacked face here instead of doing Errata move up Whirlwind to the front line. Because I'm like, Errata will eventually draw. My opponent will almost certainly have more cards than me, but I won't always have the opportunity to hit face for 2. So, the reason I Errata first here is because Bombing Raid could clear both units. Desperate Measures could clear both units. I don't get either, which means I'm going for the Whirlwind play. And because I played the Errata, I won't have enough credits to kill the Red Devils for value. So instead, Whirlwind goes face, he drops to 10. So if I can live to turn 11, I can deal 8. I have Enigma, which is going to draw a ton because his hand is huge. And here I think I would just do Whirlwind, kill the Errata. The alternate play would be first Marines move up, which I think is perfectly fine. Yeah, I'd actually do first Marines move up, I think. Because Whirlwind hit Errata. If I have like a Mido, it kind of gets uncomfortable. But just first Marines move up. Errata can't hit face. You have Whirlwind in the future to stop potential Shidens. You have Combat Engineers Hellcat if I play a key. Just first Marines move up. Now this, I think, is a bad play. I'm not entirely sure what the point of this play is. And also, unfortunately for him, he plays directly into Bombing Raid, which is exactly what I top deck. So, my opponent's now on 6 health. I have Shiden in hand, but he has the Whirlwind to stop the Shiden. Here he should do... Like, he needs to win the game as quickly as possible. There's a couple different ways to do that. He can do Island Hopping, hit face 22nd. That doesn't develop a ton. He can do 101st to kill the Errata, move up. He has 7 damage in the front line. I think that's just the best play. I would do 101st move up, because you set up 2-turn lethal. There's also strategic bombing here to just like lower my credits and while killing the Errata, but 101st move up seems like the best play, and it's what he goes for. Here I have a pretty awkward hand, because I can only play one of the cards in my hand at the moment. So I can Sendai the 4-3, because it's the biggest unit, and it has ambush. I can Sendai the 3-3, because it will let Shiden hit face next turn. I can just slap key and hope my opponent has to trade into it, because it will draw me. But I think the best card is, or the best play is just play Enigma to draw 3 and hope one of the 3 cards I draw, or some of the 3 cards I draw, can kill this cavalry, which is, or this Whirlwind, sorry. I draw the cavalry plus type 93 kills the Whirlwind, and I now have Shiden face to bring him to 2, and then Mido trade to kill him. From Dian's point of view here, he can hit face for 8 with Hellcat. He can do Island Hopping, hit face for 4. He can do First Marines move up, hit face for 4. I'm kind of partial to that play. Just do First Marines move up. First Marines move up, 22nd, hit face for 4. 22nd helps you draw into, I think Dian runs 1 Blitzkrieg or something. It also helps you find 35 Ts. Helps you find combat engineers. He instead goes for the Island Hopping. I dislike this because I can just pin the 6-5, and then he has infantry, which are very slow moving. I can Sendai the 6-5, and then he has infantry, which are very slow moving. I don't like the idea of just leaving 1 threat in the front line, because there's a lot of ways Jaggro can mess with that. I also only need 3 blitz units to kill this, and 3 does sound like a lot, but 3 is not a lot when it, like, for Jaggro. Jaggro can easily get 3 blitz units. And here, I think this is the best play. 1, you just remove the largest unit. 2, I get Mido to the front line, so he kills Mido, I just win the game with Shiden next turn, if he doesn't heal or move a Whirlwind up. Or First Marines to gain Smokescreen. Here, he's probably worried sitting at 4 health, so he can either do double trade, move up first, and then he has 2 credits left over. He can do, actually, like, strategic bombing, trade in the 4-3, no, strategic bombing, and then attack with whatever unit gets buffed by Island Hopping, and then move up the 4-3 ambush. That's probably the best play he can do there. But again, he would still die to Shiden with that play. But I don't think you're really in a position where you can afford to play around Shiden that much. Because, like, we can do it to play around Shiden. It's very, like it's very much playing not to lose versus playing to win. This is why I don't like this play, because yes, you killed Amido, yes, you're not dead to Shiden, but what are you gonna do? Because you have 3 infantry in the support line, and the front line's wide open. If I have a 35T, I just hit you in the face for 3, and then we're back to the problem of dying to Shiden. Of course, I just take this opportunity to hit face for 5 with Shiden. The reason I do this is he has First Ruins, which can give his headquarters smokescreen. He has Whirlwind, which can stop Shiden altogether. He has to kill Shiden with no units in the front line, and he's dead to just retreating it. And then I shouldn't play Type 94, because Type 94 leads to a Stars and Stripes clearance Shiden, and then I could possibly lose. And on top of not playing Type 94, moving up Sendai is good because it lowers the ability for him to kill Shiden. Like, there's now fewer cards that kill Shiden. Like, before he could do Whirlwind Hellcat, he could do Type 93, not Type 93, 35T Hellcat. Here, it's a lot harder. He actually still has 35T Hellcat, technically, but then the front line is empty. Here he uses the First Marines to gain smokescreen on his headquarters, and I have a pretty interesting play here. This is pretty spicy. I can use Shiden to kill the 2-4 and the 3-4, and then I have Akita to either win the game or kill the last unit in the front line. So I can either get a cleared front line, or he dies. Like, it's a 50-50. And I don't think there's anything else. Like, maybe if I do Akita, like, maybe if I go for a double Akita now, I guess it's, like, marginally higher chance, maybe. Because I have a 1 in 3 and then a 50-50. But there's also the possibility that I just don't clear the board. Maybe I did do that wrong, actually. Because I could have... Here, if I did Akita, hit the 2-4, there's one of 3 things happens. Either the 2-4 dies, the Akita hits the 2-4 and it dies. Akita hits face and I win. Or Akita hits the 4-3. And if Akita hits the 4-3, I can do second Akita, hit the 2-4, and then it's a 50-50. That still results in the board being cleared either way, but I keep Shiden on board. Or I win, and because I get the previous 1 in 3, there's actually a higher chance that I win that way. And then if the other option comes where it kills the 2-4 altogether, then I just am in the exact same position, but with Shiden still alive. So actually, that's a misplay I made here. I should have gone for the double Akitas instead of killing the 2-4. And actually, I should have hit the 2-4 instead of the 3-4 and then done the same thing with the First Marines. So I should have had a 4-2 Shiden left over here with the same 50-50 for lethal plus an additional 1 in 3. So actually, it's a pretty big mistake. Like, it's not a pretty big mistake in that, like, it could have, like, entirely cost... Well, actually, no, I could have easily lost this game, because he's setting up 2-turn lethal. And obviously I have the Type 94 to pin to buy a couple turns. I can get the key on board, he has to retreat it. And then I instead just get the 1 and 3. But that's a pretty big mistake. Wow, that's embarrassing. And that ties it up, 1-1. We go into Game 3. My air versus his US midrange again. Now, here I should send back Wellington for sure. Swordfish Albacore is just a really good curve. HMS Illustrious is just a really powerful card. And especially it's really powerful when you're it's following up a really good curve. And then Avery is incredibly good against US mid-range, and the question, it's usually not a card you want to keep in the mulligan, but if I already have a 1-drop into a 2-drop, I have HMS Illustrious, which is just an insane card. I think I can like afford to keep Avery, so I would just send back Wellington and keep the other 4. On Dian's side, you send back Island Hopping for sure, you send back First Marines, and you keep Combat Engineers, Red Devils. So I make the mulligan that I suggested because it is the mulligan that I remember doing, and I do genuinely think it's the best. Dian keeps the First Marines, but gets back Panzer 35T, which is best case scenario, because now he can do Combat Engineers and kill any plane I play. Now, I'd run Air Superiority, which is also probably best case scenario for me. And I know there's a very good chance my opponent has 35T. I saw him keep 3 cards in his opening hand, and he immediately played Combat Engineers. So that's almost like guaranteed that he has 35T in hand. So I think to myself, I can't respond to a 35T, but I will respond to it next turn with Swordfish Air Superiority. So I do the same play. I still kind of get blown out by a 35T, just not to the same extent as before. The Red Devils is really annoying, but I figured that Combat Engineers Red Devils means he might not have 35T, and I need to start getting onto board. Very unfortunately for me, he has 2nd Combat Engineers 35T. I play Hurricane, it's really the only play because Albacore dies, HMS Illustrious dies. He should probably just trade with the Hurricane and move up First Marines, and he's so far ahead. That's exactly what he does. Here, there's... The Empire Strikes draw is very interesting here, because I can... HMS Illustrious still just dies. Albacore still just dies. But I'm getting to the point where that can... Like, I could potentially on turn 5 play HMS Illustrious and Albacore, and maybe he can only kill one of them, and then it lets me do Empire Strikes to deal 3 damage on turn 6. But for turn 4, Spitfire is just the correct play. Everything else just dies to board, and Spitfire might make him trade in the First Marines. Here, he should just trade in Spitfire and play Skytrain. Or, yeah, he should trade in the First Marines to Spitfire, play Skytrain, hit face for 2. He could even consider moving up the Combat Engineers. I wouldn't hate that. I actually think that's pretty good. Of course, if that is what he does, he would get semi-punished by HMS Illustrious. So he doesn't move it up, and it works out really well for him. He actually gets the 2nd Red Devils off of it. I go for HMS Illustrious, double hit the Skytrain, and at this point, there's a couple other things I could have done here. I could have done HMS Illustrious Albacore. I could have done Sexton. The reason I hit the Skytrain is if I do HMS Illustrious Albacore, the Albacore can die to the Red Devils. And I need the Skytrain to die next turn to the Empire Strikes. And of course, I knew he has 3 cards in hand. If he plays Shelling, it's perfectly fine, because I'm full clearing the board next turn. If he plays like Whirlwind, that's uncomfortable, but I'm still full clearing the board next turn. But I knew if he had Weaken do it, I am almost certainly going to lose the game. And Dian has Weaken do it. It's very easy play. Play Weaken do it, move up Red Devils. Here, I can Albacore deal 4 to everything. Albacore can hit Combat Engineers, so I can kill Combat Engineers, kill the 32nd Infantry, deal 4 damage to the other units on board. Or the alternate play is I can play Empire Strikes to deal 3 to everything and kill the Skytrain this turn. I can also just play Albacore Close Air Support, which is what I end up doing. And the reason I go for this play is if you look at how the credits work up, first of all, the Skytrain is just gone. so I can now attack my bombers into the sport line however I want. If he retreats my 4-6 bomber, it's a 4-6 bomber with blitz, so I'm perfectly fine replaying it. I know he's going to kill my albacore, but because I played the close air support, my Wellington now costs 3, which means next turn I can do Wellington Empire Strikes. So the odds I can Empire Strikes for 4 next turn is still very high. It's not quite as perfect anymore because the combat engineers. I pinned the one in the front line instead of the combat engineers to keep this alive. And here we make, I think, Dian's just most catastrophically terrible play of the tournament. So in this tournament, in this position, Dian can do Hellcat, move up, and then attack with Hellcat and attack with the unpinned Red Devils to kill the 4-6 bomber. And he can move up 32nd, or he can play a 32nd from hand, whatever he wants. And that would leave me with 2 bombers. I can do Wellington Empire Strikes for 3. He still keeps his Red Devils in front line. I can do Empire Strikes for 2. He's got to be thinking about Empire Strikes at this point. Maybe I can buff one of them and then kill the Hellcat. So it looks very good for him. Just Hellcat kill the 4-6 and he's winning by a lot. He has Sherman in hand with a Red Devils to blitz up. Even if I full clear the entire board somehow, he still has Red Devils move up Sherman. He's just in a very winning position. Now, what he does instead is Sherman. Now, just looking at his hand, if he plays Sherman, he will have 3 credits left over. He can kill the Errado. He can move up. He can 32nd. Or not the Errado, the Albacore, sorry. Maybe he Shermans into a half-track, and he can retreat the 4-6 bomber. But then I just replay it Empire Strikes, and then I have 3 bombers that can attack. Well, I'll only have credits to attack with 3 of them. Maybe he even gets Sherman into 99th, and he can 99th and kill Albacore, and then I replay it Empire Strikes and then attack with the bombers to clear his entire board, except for the Red Devils. The point I'm trying to get across is Sherman here is just terrible, because if you're scared of Empire Strikes, Sherman just dies to Empire Strikes, no matter what situation happens. And if you Sherman and don't find bounce, your Sherman just dies for free because you don't kill my 4-6 bomber. My 4-6 bomber is just staying on board over 50% of the time if you slap Sherman. Over 50% of the time, I just full wipe the board. I can Empire Strikes to clear the entire board, and then well, not the entire board because these Red Devils, but the point is, he just Shermans and he's so far behind if he doesn't find bounce. The other card he can find is he has 1 Flampanzer in his entire deck, which again, he didn't play Catalina and knows it's there. He just played Sherman in an absolutely terrible spot and got the single best card in his entire deck. And even after this point, I play Wellington Empire Strikes. And look at the state of the board after this happens. Actually, I don't play Wellington Empire Strikes, and the reason is because playing Wellington Empire Strikes does not kill any additional units, except for the Sherman, and that's because I can just attack. I can attack the Sherman with a 3 damage Empire Strikes, and if I play Wellington, Wellington will die to the Red Devils, and if I keep it in hand, it's a Blitz unit, and I'm not using the Blitz unit if I play it now, and it gets cost reduced by the Empire Strikes. So even after Sherman with Flam Panzer, even the best possible case scenario, after that, just on board, I'm still pretty far ahead. Of course, that doesn't work out because the Flam Panzer also drew him into Whirlwind, which gets the Combat Engineers buff. And now I'm very far behind. I can play Sexton. Sexton dies to Red Devils. I can play Shelling, and then play out a unit that's going to get pinned, but maybe in 2 turns I can do something with it. And here I'm not actually that far behind. Panzer 35T is one of the best draws in his deck, behind like We Can Do It, number 2, and Sherman. Just goes face because again he's seen shelling, he's seen Empire Strikes in most of my bombers. Gets the 30 seconds out of his deck to increase the like quality of his draws. Now here I have a couple of different plays. I can do Churchill. I'm 1 credit off Churchill Wellington attack into the Whirlwind. I do Wrath Lightning on Whirlwind to send it back to hand, I believe is what I do. This is definitely a mistake. Like, the reason I do this is I do Wrath Lightning Wellington, like Wrath Lightning to get the Whirlwind out so I can do Wellington attack to basically take off as much damage as possible. I think I just needed to slap Churchill, to be honest. And I think that's just what needed to happen. Because this Hurricane is pinned, or this Wrath Lightning is pinned, sorry, and this Wellington is just going to die to board. Like, I think I needed to play for a Empire Strikes top deck, and then use Wellington to, like, board wipe. Of course, he just, like, moves everything to the front line, gets the Whirlwind, kills the bomber. He knows there's, like, not any 2-3 card combinations that he's going to die to with a Hurricane on board. Well, that's not entirely true. I still have Monty in my deck. If I just draw Monty right now, I could just win the game. Like, Monty and 1 buff, and I win the game. Sort of what we saw in Wild Eyes' game against me. Because he doesn't currently have Retreat in hand. Like, if he had Retreat in hand, then fair enough. But he is actually just sort of risking it all. I play Crusader, or not Crusader, Avery, Churchill, to get rid of it. And I hit the Red Devils. This is a mistake. I should either hit face for some sort of top deck out. Based on my hand, that's not possible. So I should actually just hit the tank. Okay, that is what I do. Hitting the Red Devils would be a mistake there. I need to stop the amount of damage he can put into the front line and the speed at which he can put damage into the front line. And next turn I'm going to be Mosquito and then attacking with my 2 units. So even if the Hurricane was still alive, I would not have the credits to attack with it. And then he top decks another Panzer 35T, so he's able to hit face for 8. Bring me to 2, Whirlwind still in hand, 101st Airborne in hand. There's nothing. I am dead. Dian goes up 2-1. So, in that game, sometimes you just have to play like your opponent doesn't have a card, and in which case I had to play like my opponent didn't have We Can Do It. He did have We Can Do It. If you remember, one of those 2 Red Devils was generated by the Skytrain. That had a big impact on the game. But in the end, I made maybe 1 or 2 small mistakes that game. He made 1 massive mistake, and other than that, played well. And it goes to show some games are determined by variance. Some games are determined by like 1 or 2 small mistakes. I think that one's more on the variance side, but I mean, it's air versus US midrange is a pretty snowballing game. Although even in that case, like, I still had like Monty possibilities to still win. Now, if we look at the mulligan real quick of this game, Dion now has 2 chances to win with Baby Combo, but he has to win with Baby Combo into air and US midrange, which are like the 2 most meta decks. And I will promise you guys these 2 games, it does go to game 5. These 2 games are pretty short. And these are the last games. So we are nearing the end. Here, Dion just has a really good hand. I would send back the 35T and keep the other 4 cards. You have the Reichsbank to Spoils of War into whatever you want. You can Spoils of War into combo pieces and combo early. You can Spoils of War into half-tracks or Flampanzers if I'm pressuring quickly. This is just send back 35T, keep the entire rest of the hand. On my side, Wrath Lightning's too slow. Monty, it's not terrible, but I'm going first, so I need to pressure. Finest Hour isn't bad, but I would rather find other cards, and you keep Swordfish. So if I were in my spot, I would send back everything but Swordfish. If I was in Dion's spot, I would keep 35T. Dian full mulligans. So this is the second time Dian has mulliganed Rush Production and 2 Spoils of War. And the last time he did it, he lost. Like, the last time he did it, he lost hard. And he does it again, and spoiler alert, he lost hard this game. Like, Dian just doesn't know how to properly mulligan for this deck. Which is really weird to me, because, like, why would you bring a deck you have no idea how to mulligan for? And what's also really weird to me is, like, it's not like a matchup thing. It's not like a, oh, this card seems bad, but you need to keep it. Like, these Spoils of War is just, like, the best card in your deck for finding combo pieces. The only reason you would ever not keep it is if your hand was actual combo pieces. And, like, Baby Combo can go off on turn 5, so it's not like you're need to find anti-aggro stuff to stay alive long enough to, like, combo on 9. Like, if you have the cards to combo on 5, you can combo on 5. He gets back, like, a decent hand. A hand that's way worse than the hand he had been offered in the first mulligan. And I get back a very good hand. Calm Before the Storm and HMS Illustrious returned to me off the mulligan is very fortunate for me. He passes on turn 1, so I decide to play with the Albacore with the idea of just getting as many units on board as possible. I actually don't think Albacore is good here. I think I can just hit face for 1. Because he could be doing, like, a Red Devil's move up kind of thing. Maybe he plays a Whirlwind, like there's some tanks that I won't be able to kill next turn with 2 bombers on board. And that would be pretty fine to pin. So I decided to go face. I think this play is fine. He Spoils of War, which is, like, he has Spoils of War or 2/3 infantry. So Spoils of War is obviously the correct play, and he gets Industrial Might. And here, like, this is HMS Illustrious. I think this is something a lot of air players need to learn, is you can afford to just play this card out on turn 3 in certain matchups. Like, if you know it's not going to get blown out by a, Stars and Stripes, it's not going to get blown out by, like, a Observer Core turn 5 Carpet Bombing, or it's not just going to immediately die to, like, 35 Ts. Like, if it's an empty board, you can just play a HMS Illustrious on turn 3, especially if you have Calm Before the Storm in hand. Like, I'm about to turn these into a bunch of 4/4s. Here, for Dian, I think I would just play Bank, to be honest. He instead erratos into Spoils of War, and because the HMS Illustrious have Blitz, he gets the 2/5 with Guard, but my board is Bombers. Like, my board's entirely Bombers, so I don't understand why he wouldn't play Spoils of War looking for a half-track or a Flampanzer instead of playing a unit which has 0 impact. And here, this is just easy Calm Before the Storm. He has the Errato, so I can't attack first. So just Calm Before the Storm. I have 3 4/4s. He does Spoils of War. Again, I don't understand why you don't Reichsbank. Like, Reichsbank to get credits to kill these things, or Reichsbank to get credits to combo me. Like, you're not going to win by just, like, trying to kill all of these. Like, I have too many planes. And here, I can just go face. Like, I now have the Wellington as well. I have an Albacore and the ability to give it Blitz. He has 2 fighters in his deck, and he's played 1 of them. Like, at the moment, I just have lethal on board. Like, even if he has half-track, even if he has Flampanzer, like, he needs 2 different cards. Like, he needs 2 cards to stop lethal on board. Of course, he top decks Flampanzer. Or not Flampanzer, sorry, he top decks Autocannon, which is just, like, for reference, he is 1 card away from winning this game. If he has a second Rush Production, he wins this game. If instead of playing the 2/5 Guard, he had done Spoils of War into Rush Production, like on turn 4, he wins. Like, if he keeps rush production or a Spoils of War in opening hand instead of full mulliganing, he wins. Like, it is so crazy that he is literally one card away from winning the game on turn 5, and the reason he does it is because he made several mistakes. Is insane. Like, it's an insane testament to how strong baby combo is. It's an insane testament to like how much choices matter in this game, how much like tiny decisions have a huge impact on the outcome of the game. And it's also a testament to how ridiculously lucky Dian has been getting this entire tournament. Um, so he does auto cannon. Well, he does rush production, auto cannon for 30 seconds, so he deals 8 damage, but he has no second rush production. So just to point out what I mean by if he had rush production, he wins. Um, if he had rush production this turn where he has a full hand, he would have a full hand and 4 credits, and each unit he plays gives him 2. So he would be able to play 35T. It pays back for itself. You would be able to like spoils for another rush production. It wouldn't be like quite guaranteed lethal because a lot of units in his hand have more than 2 health, which is a outcome of his deck building choices. But yeah, like that was insane. He got offered one of the best possible hands for baby combo, full mulliganed it, got back a very good hand for baby combo, and then played poorly, and then top decked it on turn 5 and was 1 card from winning on turn 5. Like, that's just insane to me. And that brings us to game 5. I have to win with US midrange into baby combo. He starts first, which is a very big deal. On my end, I should keep 32nd, I should keep 35T, get rid of Sherman, get rid of second 32nd, get rid of half track. On his end, he has 2 choices here. He can either do keep rush production, keep 32nd infantry. Well, maybe not even keep 32nd infantry, sorry. Just keep rush production, mulligan the other 3, and go for a combo win, which is a much more consistent way to win, but also a way that he's consistently shown he doesn't like to go for. He has never kept rush production in opening mulligan this entire tournament. And I've played a decent amount of baby combo. Not like a ton, but I've played a bunch of baby combo, and in my experience, you keep rush production in hand. Or he can just try to win with units. The Jaeger regiment's pretty good for that, because he's guaranteed to get it to the front line before I can. And then in the front line is guaranteed to trade with 2 units. So he actually sends back, and what's weird to me about this is he sends rush production, sends back 32nd, but keeps Jaeger and 35T. So this looks like he's going for a win with units. Maybe he just keeps this solely to stop a Geburg's Pioneer. But like, if you're going to try to win with units, why would you not keep 32nd? And it looks like he even considers sending back 35T, which is, again, I said you would keep these 2 cards maybe as a hard counter to Geburg's Pioneer, just in case, like, just stop me from snowballing with Geburg's Pioneer. But the fact that he's not considering not keeping 35T here shows that that's not why he's keeping these cards. So like, Dian's mulligan, like his choice in mulliganing for this deck is a complete mystery to me. Like, in my opinion, he mulligans terribly 3 times this game, and in 2 of them it's the 2 games he lost with baby combo. This game, his hand kind of works out really well. Like, his hand works out to be really awkward for me. Start with 32nd, because Red Devils has Blitz, and I'm going to have to sack 2 units into this. Top deck's 35T, the one that he sent away in his mulligan, and plays Red Devils. So I just double 32nd, because I can't kill his unit at the moment, but I can set up killing it. And I get 30 seconds out of my deck. Here, Dian has a couple of choices. He could bank into, like, units, Industrial Might. That would be good, maybe, if you had the 32nd still. But that would require, like, tossing out the possibility of combo winning. And he didn't keep the 32nd, so it's not really good. So he top decks the second Red Devils, which means he can just do move up 2 Red Devils to the front line, and he's just guaranteed to hold the front line until like at least turn 5. Instead, he decides to go face for 3, which means like at this point, his hand has Industrial Might as the only combo piece, so he's just committed to the winning on board strategy. So I've spent, well, like the correct play here is to just do 2 credits, 2 attacks, remove the 3-1. It's the largest strength unit on the board. And I don't have enough credits to kill the Red Devils, because it would cost 2 credits to target it with each unit. So I just remove the 3-1. And then I have the choice afterwards to play Red Devils or another 32nd. I like the other 32nd, because again, Red Devils has Blitz. I actually choose to play Red Devils here. I'm not... I guess the point is that I can just... Next turn, I can attack with just these units to kill 1 Red Devils, and then I keep the unit left over. And the following turn, I can do Panzer 35T Red Devils, or next turn I can just do 35T... no, I wouldn't have enough credits to do that, because it would cost 5. Yeah, so... I actually think this play is fine. I take back what I said about playing the other 32nd, and the reason is, the difference between the 3-1 and the 1-3 is that the 3-1 will kill the Red Devils and it will kill the 2-1s. So the two, they're essentially the same, but one has Blitz. The 1-3, like, I'm going to have to trade 2 units into it anyways, but if one of the units survives afterwards, it's better. So that's why playing Red Devils here is what I went for, and upon further analysis, I actually do think it's correct. Here, he has 35T go face, and he top decks a second 35T. I don't think he should have traded with the Red Devils. I don't understand why he did it, because... Okay, that's not true. I understand why. It's to protect the 35T. I mean, I guess... Because, yeah, actually, it's fine. It's fine. Here, I think I have 2 very powerful choices. I can either do First Marines, attack the Panzer 35T, and then I have First Marines on board to set up just fully clearing the front line next turn. Or I can do Panzer 35T into 35T and play the PIR, which is the card I draw that turn, which also looks like it's pretty guaranteed to clear the front line. Again, First Marines has Blitz, PIR snowballs, which is why I go for this play. Actually, I think playing PIR there is better. I thought that is what I did. I instead take the time to get rid of one of these Red Devils. I guess the reason I don't is on turn 5 I can do First Marines hit the second Red Devils, and it's just over. But I do actually think PIR there is slightly better. Here, Dian draws the third Panzer 35T, which means on turn on turn 2 he top decked Red Devils. On turn 3 he top decked Panzer 35T. On turn 4 he top decked Panzer 35T, and on turn 5 he top decked Panzer 35T. Which is some, like, I'm not gonna say it's like the best top decks in his deck, because obviously he wants to find like 38Ts to start drawing cards, some Panzer H's to find his autocannons, to find his rush productions. But it's certainly the best draws to like keep me penned into the support line. And he brings me to 10. Like, at this point, he's just fully committed. Like, the 2 orders in his hand do absolutely nothing. He's fully committed to killing me, just with units on board. And if we pause and look at this, it's turn 5. He can bring me to 7. And the 2 cards in his hand do absolutely nothing. And I'm going to be killing his board next turn. So yes, I'm on 7, but he has no way of dealing damage currently in hand, and it looks like this is just going to be a very easy win for me. And then he draws 38T. Pretty good draw. It's a way to like keep units on the board while finding more cards. 38T finds him a Spoils of War, so it's getting him slightly deeper into the deck. At this point, he really wants to find a 32nd Infantry, because he would be able to do 32nd Infantry, play all 4, Industrial Might to draw 4, and then maybe that can find him into enough gas to finish off the game. And here he starts to trade. And, like, the reason he starts to trade is he realizes he's not going to be able to deal 10 damage with units. Like, that's just not going to happen. Like, my hand is too big. I'm getting control of the front line next turn regardless. So he decides to cash out on just value trades, which is correct. Like, this isn't a mistake. This is correct. And here I have a couple of options. None of them look great. I can hit the First Marines into the 35T and retreat the Red Devils. That puts me into a pretty terrible spot. I can kill the Red Devils with the First Marines, but then I only have 4 credits left over, and I can't kill the 35T. But the fact that he has stopped attacking face means that the 2 cards I know are in his hand since the beginning of the game aren't like autocannon 32nd. Like, he knows he can't win with his current hand, so that means I know he can't win with his current hand, which means I can be slightly riskier with health. And also I have this We Can Do It for 3 heal, which, like, 3 heal against the autocannon combo is not going to save you, but 3 heal against just, like, more blitz cards or autocannon with 3 units, that can be the difference between winning and losing. So I do PIR, 99th, Combat Engineers, and then kill the 35T. So this is just putting the most units on board. This gives me the most units that can attack into the front line, which means that I have the highest chance of getting into the front line. He top decks 32nd Infantry. There's 4 in his deck. That's not unreasonable. Spoils of War. Unfortunately, we don't get to see what. Unfortunately, we don't get to see like what the options are. But the fact that he's thinking tells me that it's not autocannon. I mean, like, I know it's not autocannon now, but I mean, when playing the game, it tells me it's not autocannon. And then he plays second Spoils of War and automatically picks 38T. So when I was, like, playing this, like, at the computer at the time, I thought that that card in his hand was autocannon, because he picked it so fast. Like, look at how fast he picks this. He does Spoils of War 1. Or sorry, that's Spoils of War 2. So he does Spoils of War 1, he spends a lot of time thinking about it. And then he immediately slaps Spoils of War 2. And immediately picks it. Also, side note, he should have drawn before moving up and attacking. I don't understand why he did Spoils of War 1, picks a second Spoils of War, moves, attacks, and then draws a second time. Like, he did draw first, then attack, then draw second. But instead he picks the 38T, so what probably was the outcome is it probably offered him like 2 30-seconds or a 38T, I would assume. Something along the lines of that, where it's like 2 absolutely atrocious cards or a card that draws. And now, if we look at this, remember how I paused the game, like last turn, or like 1 full turn cycle ago, and it looked like he was completely losing. Now it looks like he has some winning chances. He can do 30 seconds, draw 4 to refill his hand. Try to find, like, give some pretty good draws to find an autocannon. This game is certainly up in the air. First Marines draw is actually really good here. So I can get the PIR, kill the 2-3, kill that, and I can end up First Marines to the front line. So it took 7 turns to get through 2 Red Devils, 3 Panzer 35Ts, and the Jaeger Regiment, but after 7 turns, I've managed to take the front line. And now he's on a clock. And he top decks autocannon. So now he is 1 damage off lethal. And 1 rush production away from killing me. So the 38T draws Reichsbank. At this point, he needs to find a rush production, or he's, like, possibly gonna die. I heal up because I was thinking he could have autocannon, like, just based on the number of cards in his deck. He has 4 30-seconds, 4 rush productions, 1 autocannon, and I was confident he had the autocannon in hand based on the snap pick. So in my head, I was thinking, well, he could do autocannon, rush production, 4 30-seconds. That's 8 damage. I want to get above 8 health. because that's like the obvious threshold right now. So I do we can do it. Move up the 2 highest attack units and hit face for 4. And the end result of this is he's at 16. I have 14 damage in the front lines, in the front line, and either 101st or strategic bombing follow-up. So what that means is he is currently dead from my point of view. Like, I can kill him next turn from my point of view. Unfortunately for me, he did turn 8 top deck autocannon, turn 9 top deck rush production, which means he does rush production, autocannon, 30-second, 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 industrial might, draw 5 cards, and he only needs to play 1 more unit. So, again, like, he could have stayed alive. He could have done, like, he had the Reichsbank effect up, so he could have drawn Leopold. That would have been really bad. He could have drawn a half track to stay alive. He could have drawn Leopold to stay alive. Like, I'm not trying to say, like, oh, this is, like, and he had 4 rush productions in his deck, so it's like, oh, the chances I win this game, from my point of view, are not super high. Like, I'd say they're probably above 50% from this point, maybe around 50% from this point. But 3 turns ago, it was probably around 90%. And 2 turns ago, it was probably around, like, 85%, 80%. And then he top-decked autocannon into rush production, which are literally the only 2 cards you could draw in combination that let him kill me this turn. Like, he could have drawn draw cards that draw him into autocannon and rush production, but my goodness. And with that, Dian wins this OCC. He went 3-0 with his Britain OTK. He went 3-2 with Baby Combo, and he went 1-0 with his US deck. And yeah, it has shaken up quite a few things. Obviously, Dian's a newcomer. Congratulations to him for winning. Congratulations for him winning his first ever tournament. And he did it with non-conventional decks. He beat meta deck after meta deck after meta deck with non-conventional decks, which is always cool to see. But at the same time, we have to address the elephant in the room. He got obscenely lucky. This is not like a breakout star who is like playing the craziest cards we've ever seen, playing flawlessly. He made tons of mistakes. He got obscenely lucky, and he honestly just high-rolled his way through the tournament. And OCC is, it's 2 best of 3s and then a best of 5, and that's not a lot of cards. Like, it's not unlikely that a player, like, occasionally whoever wins the tournament, it just high rolls the whole time. Like, there's not a lot of games. You theoretically only have to win 7 games in a row, and if you've played a lot of ladder, you know sometimes you just go on a 7-game lucky streak. So that is the outcome. Now, something I do with these analysis streams, something I like to do is I like to go over and say who placed, like, what I would argue would be the order of how well each, like, player is played in this tournament. Because it's one thing to look at the results. Dian won, I got 2nd, Artemisia got 3rd, Wild Eyes got 4th. But outcomes in tournaments does not always equal outcome of who played the best in the tournaments. So, from my point of view, you can take this how you will. You can argue with it. I think, unquestionably, the best player in this tournament was Artemisia. To be fair, he did get a bye in the first round, so he played less games. But I think Artemisia made a couple of mistakes. Very importantly, he made a terrible mistake against Wild Eyes in Game 5, which statistically costed him the set. But he got the 1 card in his deck, top deck. But that was just 1 point, and other than that, I agree with almost every single play he made. There was even a couple plays he made which I didn't see at first glance, but upon re-looking at it, they were actually better than the play I had seen. I think Artemisia played incredibly well this tournament. I think I probably played 2nd best. This was certainly not my best tournament. I made a couple of mistakes. I made one big mistake against Wild Eyes. I made a couple of like small missteps against Dian. Um, like I don't, I the one against Wild Eyes was the most egregious. Um, like I made one game losing mistake and then a couple of small mistakes. Artemisia made one game losing mistake and then played pretty much flawlessly. Other than that, um, past that point, like unfortunately I can't rate no one because we didn't see his games yet, and Moonshine just didn't play. Um, and it's always hard to rate players who like only got knocked out in the quarterfinals because like Vinny only played 2 games, so it's hard to argue that like someone who played like I played 10 games. Artemisia played 8 games. Vinny played 2, so it's hard to judge. It's hard to judge like exactly um when it comes to quarterfinals. So again, take all of these lists with a grain of salt. But I would say Artemisia first, myself second. Um, it's I would probably say Drogear third. It's hard because he only played 3 games. He made that like game losing mistake in game one, but then won it anyways. And I think that game losing mistake was probably the most egregious. Well, Artemisia's might have been slightly more egregious. And then he made a couple of strange like mistakes and just a couple of strange plays in the other games. So I'd say Drogear third, Wild Eyes fourth. He did a couple of like he played very well in game one, and then he went on tilt I think in game two, and then he played very well in some of the games against Artemisia, and then played more poorly in some of the other ones. So I think at his peak, he was probably playing better than anyone else in the tournament, maybe tied with Artemisia. But then he also had a lot of dips where I think he went on tilt where the pressure got to him. So I'd say Wild Eyes fourth, Vinny fifth. Vinny made a couple of mistakes, I think, in game one, and then in game two, just like, in my opinion, mind-bogglingly, like mistakes that I don't understand. Like, I understand he's on tilt. Like I understand going on tilt after losing game one to OTK, but the mistakes in game two are just so bad, and one after another, after another, after another. And then this might seem strange. Actually, no. I think I would put Dian ahead of Vinny. I think I would say Artemisia, myself, Drogear, Wild Eyes, Dian, Vinny. Because Dian played well at times. I think he had a very good handle of the Britain deck, although I disagree with him waiting so many times to not play depth charges. Um, and I think he had an okay understanding of the US deck. I think that's the deck he grinded on ladder with a lot. I think his understanding of baby combo is terrible, at least when it comes to Mulligan. Um, like, but it's hard to say like between him and Vinny because again, Dian played 10 games, Vinny played 2. But again, take that all with a grain of salt. Dian is our winner. Hopefully, we all don't see OTK on ladder. That about wraps up this analysis. Um, and yeah,